Good morning, Breakfast with Bacon fans. Have I got a show for you? It's not the serious topic like you normally get. Who I have on the air, this good man here, is named Carl Koslowski. He is a Catholic comedian. That means he actually goes to church, loves the Lord, and he still laughs. He's funny, and he knows that you can be serious and funny all at the same time because God's the creator of laughter, isn't he, Carl?
Yes, yeah. There's even a great book by Matthew Kelly of Dynamic Catholic. I heard God laugh, and it's all about humor in life. It's really good. So
Well,
yeah,
we have that in common because my
yeah.
doctoral dissertation, my whole PhD was humor as a communication strategy in military marriage. So we got a little bit in common because
Oh
I didn't want
wow.
to study
Okay.
anything heavy. And, I will tell you, you may not know this, but there is actually statistical research that the greater the use of positive humor in a relationship, the greater the marital satisfaction. And as positive humor actually decreases, so does marital satisfaction. So
Oh wow.
you making us laugh is actually very helpful for us. So
Well, thank you. Yeah, sure.
can I
And
just ask? Go ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Well,
Go
so
ahead.
when did you know you were funny?
Um. Okay. Well, I tell the book. We're going to be talking about this book later, but I tell the story in the book more thoroughly. I have a book called "Dosed and Confused: Tales from an Narcoleptic Life," and I had a severe sleep disorder for many years, hence the title. But um, yeah. So when I was like 4 years old, I was living in Chicago, and I wound up. I was riding a motorcycle. What? I was riding a tricycle. Sorry,
Very
and
talented 4-year-old.
yeah, very precocious. And I was riding a tricycle around a circular track, and a friend of mine was acting like he was Howard Cosell, the old-time sports announcer from the '70s when this was happening, and he was urging me to go faster, faster, like I was in a race. And I came around a corner so fast on one part of the circle that I careened on two wheels, and I slammed into the back of a parked car. My face slid down the back of the car. I got my nose stuck in a bumper, like not literally in the bumper, but there used to be big chrome bumpers back in the old days
Right.
that would cover the bumper that we see now. And my nose got wedged in between the chrome and the bumper. And I was like begging, get my mom, get my mom. And my friend was just laughing so hard instead of getting my mom, he got like 50 of the neighborhood kids to come laugh at me. And it was only because of the commotion that my mom noticed, look out the apartment window, and was wondering what's going on. And she had to save me she called in the fire department and everything.
She
I
did
swear this
not.
happened. Yes,
To
because
get
they
your
had to
nose out.
they had to unscrew the chrome off the car, and I broke my nose, and I wound up going to the hospital to get X-rayed. And my dad was fairly new from Poland, and he was training as a doctor in English again. He had been a doctor in Poland. He was retraining, and he shows up, and he winds up telling me, I guess he wasn't thinking, how this would come across to a 4-year-old. But he kneeled down in front of me and he goes, Carl, you can either have plastic surgery or no plastic surgery and still breathe pretty okay, or you can have plastic surgery and you'll be perfect. Because apparently my nose is really messed up. And I thought having plastic surgery meant that they would take off my nose and replace it with a big plastic nose and those Groucho Marx
Oh
glasses that they used to have with
no.
the eyebrows.
Yes.
And I just was screaming, no, no, no. So that we avoided the surgery, and you've got Mr. Nasal that you hear before you today still.
Oh
So,
my gosh. But
and so
were you
drawing that
funny?
crowd.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was always in trouble. And yeah, I was definitely class clown in grade school at St. Edward's Catholic School in Little Rock, Arkansas, where we moved later. And I also almost got held back in kindergarten because they rated my behavior so poor. So I would have had the distinction of flunking kindergarten.
Which is a very wonderful resume builder.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Holy cow. So tell me though, do you remember the first time people laughed with you that like this is kind of fun.
Oh
I
yeah.
like this.
Yeah. I was when I was in first grade. We had an assignment to write a story, and most kids just did like, a couple pages, real basic, 2 or 3 pages. And this is with the big wide lines that have
Right.
the dashes down the middle. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's not like I'm on a, real piece of paper here. But I wound up writing a 26-page story
You
about
did
a
not.
yeah, about a talking dog and cat that are criminals, and they're trying to evade the human cops that are after them. And my story was so out there that my teacher had me read it in front of the class, and they were laughing so hard that I got sent on a little tour. I went through second through fourth grade reading my story, and I got laughs in every classroom. And so that's, I guess, my first experience at doing stand-up comedy without even realizing it.
And you were in
But
first grade?
yeah, and I kept writing essays all through fourth grade. I kept writing little stories and stuff, and they would always let me read it to the 4 grades. It was a lot of fun.
Wow, that is actually spectacular because I mean, most people can be funny, but to be also creative like that as well, to just and be on the spot. So many children at that age are so shy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. My parents. My mom would always call me. She was American, but she knew Polish. My dad was from Poland, and anyway, she would call me a wobus all the time, which means devil. So, so I was branded for my nonstop smart alecky, uh, trying to be funny behavior always. So yeah.
Well, okay, so that's the first exposure. So you continued first, second, third, fourth. Uh, is this something you did like in high school? Did you do it in talent shows? Did it ever stop? And then you thought, because I'm going to try to lead you into here you
Mhm.
are today, Catholic comedian
Oh,
getting
sure, I
paid for it,
understand.
right? So did this just kind of continue throughout the grades and everyone's known this is Carl the funny guy or what?
Well, what happened, it actually stopped for a while because in fifth and sixth grade, my folks decided to put us in another Catholic school that was much closer to where we lived. We went across the city of Little Rock to get to the old school, St. Edward's. And for whatever reason, I got really uptight and shy at the fifth and sixth grade school. And then they put me back in St. Edward's in seventh grade. And I don't personally recall whether I was really funny, but I have a lot of old classmates on Facebook that are always like, "Oh my gosh, you were the funniest in class! Oh my gosh!" So, and they were referring to those years too. So I guess I picked it up again. But then when I was pretty serious in high school, but I loved David Letterman, and I discovered Letterman actually when I was in fourth grade. He had a morning show instead of a late night show a couple years before he got the late night show. And I was homesick one day, and I saw this crazy guy doing wacky stuff at 9 in the morning, and the audience looks as baffled as they are laughing. It only lasted a few weeks because he was just not he was too weird for mornings, but I loved it, and I faked being sick about every 3 weeks for the next 6 months while he was on the air, so I could get away with staying home and watching the episode. I figured 3 weeks was like a plausible. Oh yeah, I'm sick again. And this is pre VCR. So, but then when he got late night, I would uh, I would actually set an alarm in my room and wake up at 11:30 every night and watch him from 11:30 to 12:30, and then go back to sleep. So I was like the one seventh grade kid with bags under his eyes, and my parents couldn't figure it out.
Oh, you
So
never told
yeah,
him.
no. But I really, as far as being funny, my freshman year in college, I went to Texas Christian University, TCU, and they had a stand-up contest sponsored by CERTS. It was a national college comedy contest, and I came in second my freshman year, and I won my sophomore year, the campus contest, and so that really got me psyched about doing this. So yeah.
So what is the hardest part about doing comedy? I mean, do you have to write it? Is it spontaneous? Is it a little bit of both? Because there's probably people interested, who've been told like you that they're funny, but
Yeah.
they don't know where to go. I mean,
Well, I mean, for me, like writing was always easy. I'm about to show you another thing that I recommend to people. Um, but I was writing was always something I had a knack for. Like I said, since first grade, I was writing, wild stuff. But so I'd say, even now, I'm much more of a, hey, I wrote these jokes and I'm going to learn them, and and I stick to what I know. Like some comics do that, and some are good at like playing off the crowd all the time. I'm not
Mhm.
as good at that. But yeah, so I mean, for me, I'd say that writing the jokes is the easy part, and then trying to work it out on stage and get it exactly how I want it. That's a little more of a challenge because I'm not as spontaneously funny as some other guys might be. So,
Yeah, like the Robin Williams, who was just
oh my gosh.
spectacular.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But what I was going to say is I recommend if anybody out there thinks that they have a knack for being funny and they want to try it, I promise this isn't sacrilegious. It's called the New Comedy Bible. And it's nothing to do with our beloved Bible as Christians, but it's a book written by a woman. It's been around since the 80s. Her name is Judy Carter, and she's considered the best comedy writing teacher ever. And it is a book full of writing prompts and helping you figure out, what makes you funny, what to different like a zillion different ways to give it a shot. So, and a lot of advice if you want to actually try stand up. She's very good at giving advice on how to perform and all that stuff. So I recommend that to people a lot.
Right. And I look forward to reading some of your funny stuff. I mean, again, if you're that funny in first grade, and then because I do know that you've written, as you just showed us your book,
Yeah,
the Dozed and Confused Tales from a Nutty Narcoleptic Life, which we'll talk about your narcolepsy too, because
yeah,
probably wasn't funny for a time, but you could turn it into humor. But let me
yeah.
ask you a more serious question then. As a Catholic, have you ever found people kind of disparaging? Because there's so many people think Jesus is serious and you can't laugh. And
Uh-huh.
how do you merge the two of those?
Well, let me think exactly. I know I should have an answer like smack off the top of my head, but I think what it is um well, I don't well now I've been writing more jokes because this year I've been reading the Bible a lot more than I ever had before. And I was like, oh, well, this is kind of funny, and this is kind of funny. And by the way, I run every Catholic or Christian joke that I come up with about the Bible. I and my partners in our comedy business, we run them all by 3 or 4 priests that have
Make
a
sure
good
you're
sense of
not
humor.
sacrilegious.
Yeah, yeah, they make sure. I mean, and occasionally we do get told, "Hey, can't do that" or whatever. But
Do I have to go to confession for this one, Father?
exactly, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that um, it's just like the Catholic Church. I've always loved that it's got a lot of spectacle to it, in how we do the mass, with the colorful robes and the songs and and all sorts of, and even in no way am I saying this in a bad way. I hope nobody misunderstands me, but the whole part of the liturgy of the Eucharist, that's also like a powerful experience, that you don't get in any other denomination, of Christianity. And so to me, I always was, it always inspired me to know, oh yeah, we're different in a good way. And, and so it comes pretty easily for me when I'm trying to write jokes about things, that, I've had a pretty good knack for coming up with the stuff, and and I think that's the same with my business partner. We have a thing called Catholic Laughter, which we'll be talking about later, I'm sure, and we
Which, for
both.
those of you watching, you can already go to catholiclaughter.com.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
but we
keep going.
produce clean stand-up comedy shows with a Catholic twist, we call it, for parishes, and now we're going after colleges. And I'll be doing your conference, although that's just me not doing it officially with that. But we're trying to really branch out beyond parishes and expand what we do around the country. And we've been having some luck. We've had shows in Dallas and Cleveland, and we've got a couple coming up in Chicago. My partner just did one there. And of course, I'm coming to Virginia Beach for your conference. So
October 28th, Disrupting the
yeah,
Culture with Truth. Come see Carl Koslowski make you laugh on October 28th at the Virginia Beach
that's right.
Convention Center. Go to truthspeakers.org and register. You're going to love it. Okay, I got you your
Yeah.
plug there. Keep going.
No, so I mean, it does come pretty naturally to me. And I guess, like I said, because I think what I'm trying to get across is that it's all the um, all the colorful aspects of the church is very creatively stimulating in a way. So like I enjoy it, so I'm happy about it. I know it's different and better than other denominations practices, and so I come at it with a very positive attitude and just try to have some fun.
Yeah, I could just, listening to you talk, and you were saying earlier you read the Bible. I could just see it. And upon you, Peter, I will build my church. 3 minutes later, get thee behind me, Satan. Peter, didn't I just make you Pope? And you can't even go 3 minutes, It's like, I
Yeah,
could just see all the humor in there, and everybody's like, oh, geez, sorry, Jesus, It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I guess I shouldn't have said that. It's just, you're right. You
Yeah,
can
I
turn it
mean,
all into the,
no, that's great. I might take that, if that's okay.
feel
Okay,
free.
but yeah,
But you take
um,
life situations and you make it funny. Like you do, in fact, have narcolepsy.
yeah. Well, I did. I cured.
Oh,
It was similar to narcolepsy. I say narcolepsy just because it's a funnier way to describe it. And doctors told me I was basically worse than a narcoleptic. I was falling asleep all the time, and this went on from, gosh, especially 2000 to 2010 was like just crazy. I would pass out in all sorts of ridiculous situations, and a lot of them I tell the stories in the book. But I gradually started getting better, because I had part of it was lack of oxygen because my nose was so messed up from getting
ah,
it broken when I was 4, and I only finally had surgery on it when I was in 2009, and that was back in '76. And so once I was able to breathe better, I mean, having better oxygen flow like a normal person, that helped a lot. But yeah, but about 2 years ago, I'd say I moved back to my hometown of Little Rock, where I grew up from age 6 on, and got out of the rat race of Los Angeles, and lived a calmer life here. And I just started really paying attention to, oh, I'm going to go to bed at normal hours, because I was also undiagnosed manic depressive bipolar all my life until I moved here. And they're like, hey, you got this problem. And so all those years, I was also causing my own problem by, not knowing when to go home from the comedy clubs. If I was hanging out or performing or whatever, I'd stay out too late, have to get up in the morning for work. And everything just kind of compounded,
yeah.
to the point where, I couldn't drive, and I was taking buses and trains all over Los Angeles, and just totally insane things would happen to me regularly.
So, what is one of the funniest stories you wrote about your narcolepsy days?
Um, Okay. So I was once on board a bus going down Sunset Boulevard, which is a rather famous street in LA, and I completely fell asleep. I would often like fall asleep so hard, and I would beg the drivers wake me up, like yell out, "Hey, get up!" And I'd tell them what stop I wanted. But this driver, sometimes the drivers would forget, and I'd wake up like 10 stops past where I wanted to go. And I joked that
Somewhere in Nevada.
and and I joked that whenever I'd wake up 10 stops past where I wanted to go, I'd feel like I drug, kidnapped, and abandoned myself. And so this one night I was riding down Sunset, fell asleep really hard, and I was having this dream like that I was like in the 1950s, out with this cute girl in polka dot dress, and we go to the movies, and I'm just like having this wonderful date, and I put my hand on her knee, just innocently. I'm not going to tell you something crazy, but when I did that in the dream, I suddenly had this cold, sharp feeling, and I jolt awake, and I look, and there's my hand in front of my face, with somebody else's hand around my wrist, holding it up in front of me. And I look over, and it was a Mexican man, and he like just, and I'm like, I'm sorry, and he just goes whack. So I got whacked in my face with my own hand, and
Oh
the whole
no.
bus started laughing at me. And so yeah, that's like one thing that happened. But there's a lot of crazy things where I wound up just completely bad parts of LA and having to figure my way out, things like that. So yeah.
Wow. I like, the serious part is being raised Catholic, you
Yeah.
know, um,
Oh, very serious with my dad. Yeah.
yeah, right. So you said the priests check it out. How do you feel as a Catholic and as a comedian that you're serving God? If the 10, he who gives 10 talents, you better make 10 more, 5 talents, 5 more, so on and so
Yeah.
forth. When did you finally kind of realize this is my service to the kingdom?
Well, um, let's see. I mean, I think that, early on, way back when I started, like around 23, 24, like after when I started in, trying to perform in real places outside of college, I won't lie, I sometimes was somewhat naughty on stage because I was so young. I wasn't thinking, you just
Sure.
kind of don't have the discernment yet to have to be,
To keep
perfectly
the
good
profanity
guy.
out in the, yeah,
Yeah,
tasteless
yeah.
jokes.
I wasn't terrible, but I did it some. And one thing that really influenced me in a good way and put me on the right track was that I lived across the street in Chicago from, because I moved from college to Chicago and then eventually to Los Angeles, and I lived across the street from a giant cathedral level parish that was just gorgeous, called St. Mary of the Angels, and it's an Opus Dei run church, and those guys don't mess around. And so and I volunteered with a after school and weekend tutoring program, and I was making the kids laugh always. So eventually they started having me, write a clean set for kids, and I would perform like maybe every month or two for the audience of the priests and the other supervisors and a bunch of kids. And once I realized, oh yeah, I got to be totally clean here. I don't want to ruin my reputation by doing otherwise elsewhere. And so I just realized, wow, I'm really doing this is like a vocation for me because I'm, spreading joy and laughter. And like you said earlier, trying to show people that Catholicism and Christianity can be, and I don't mean that we're not Christian. I hope I'm
Catholic
just saying
Christians, the
overall,
original,
yeah,
right?
yeah. But just in general, that we are that it doesn't have to be all dead serious and solemn. And God gave us laughter as a gift, and God gave us joy in the world. And so, just as long as you do it in the right way, it's a wonderful thing. And so I had priests really enjoy what I did way back then in the mid '90s, and I just stayed clean ever since.
Yeah. Did you ever
Yeah.
feel like the Holy Spirit, or not really? That was it. Like, did you ever hear God saying, go this direction? Or what you
Um.
just explained, was that the direction you just,
Well. Oh, you mean go in the clean direction?
well, no,
Oh
just
yeah.
go in the comedy, well, and
Oh,
clean,
comedy in general. Well, no, I mean, I felt like when I mentioned David Letterman, I see it when I okay, let me think. Okay, so when I broke my nose that night, I was at the hospital at 4 years old. I stayed up late because I was in a room because I came in there like early evening, and it takes hours when you're in an ER. So there was a TV, and eventually Johnny Carson came on.
I
I'm four
loved
years old. I
him.
have no idea who
Yeah.
Johnny Carson is. But here's this old guy that is having one person after another. I think back in the 70s, he would have even like four guests a night. And everybody's laughing and the audience is laughing. And, I don't really get the jokes mostly, but I thought, oh, that's really cool. And I kind of forgot about it for a long time. But then when I was in fourth grade and saw David Letterman doing it, it really lit a fire in me. Excuse me. And um, yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure what the path would be, but I did pretty much really want to do comedy. Even when I got more serious in high school, as far as not, I wasn't like being a class clown, but I was writing a lot of funny things. And I remember I bought a book that the David Letterman show created that was a big gag book, and everybody in the class was like passing it around and laughing at it and sneaking looks at it, behind teachers' backs. And so I was popular for being the guy that brought the funny stuff to school. So,
Mhm.
it pretty much has been with me my whole life, I'd say.
So take me up to catholiclaughter.com. So now there's an organization. Are you the founder of it? How many people are part of it?
Yeah.
Because I know you want to get we do, you and I together tonight, we're trying to get people to get Catholic Laughter at their events, because again, I had a
Yeah.
singer
Thanks.
at the conference last year, but we need to know this, and
Yeah.
Catholic comedians at any event would be fantastic. So yeah, tell me a little bit about how it was founded, who's a part of
Yeah.
it, what do you do?
Okay. So, basically, when when I was in Chicago, there was a priest I knew named Father Don Woznicki, and he thought I was funny. He liked what I did with Opus A kids and stuff like that. And many years later, in 2016, he somehow got permission to transfer to Los Angeles because he wanted to try and create a new Catholic ministry to show business, like to try and influence it for better productions and more edifying entertainment. And so he moved into a parish that was smack in the heart of Hollywood. Like, it was a really cool location. And it was out of my way from where I lived, and I had to take a bus. But actually, I would actually spend the money in Uber every Sunday to go see him, because I was like, wow, one of my best friends is here. I'm going to go to his mass, right? And eventually he said, "Hey, why don't?" After a few months, he was like, "Could you put on one of your comedy shows with a couple other guys and do it during like donut hour, like after 10:30 mass, when they had snacks and bagels and donuts or whatever." And so I put together one of my best friends, who's now my partner in Catholic Laughter, named Scott Vinci, and I enlisted him to help me out. And we asked like three or four other comics that a couple of whom were Catholic, a couple weren't, but we knew they were clean and funny. And we put on like a 5 or 6 comic show at noon in the church hall. And the first time it was about 40, 50 people in the hall. And they were, even though we were endorsed by the priest who introduced us, they still look kind of confused, like, why are you interrupting my conversation?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to have bagels with my friends. They would look at us annoyed when we're on the microphone, right? And then, but gradually, after a few minutes, they all started getting into it. And by the end of the show, we got a lot of applause, and Father got some good feedback. And so he asked me to keep doing shows for the next 4 or 5 months, and the crowd kept getting bigger and bigger. And so eventually he just said, "Hey, why don't we try to do this as a fundraiser for the parish? Try it at night and see what happens." So we put on a lineup that was just unbelievable. And we had a legend named Tom Dreesen, who is a Catholic comic who toured the world with Frank Sinatra for decades as his
Wow.
opening act, because a lot of classic singers like having comedians get the crowd, relaxed.
Yeah.
And Tom was Frank Sinatra's guy, and he'd been on late night television over 500 times. He guest hosted the Tonight Show like 60 times for Johnny Carson,
Nice.
and so he agreed to help us out. Amazingly, he normally gets like 20,000 a show, and he agreed. He just said, "I'll help you guys out. This is a nice thing." So he shows up, and we also had like a Guinness World Record setting comic juggler named Ron Pearson, and he does things like he will balance a real 6 foot tall ladder on his chin while juggling and telling jokes as his finale. And so we had all that going on.
Oh my gosh.
Four normal comics, Ron and then Tom Dreesen. And so the thing was that the word was, people got excited, I guess, especially seeing Tom Dreesen, all the flyers and stuff. And so we wound up having not only an absolutely packed hall of 150 seats, but people kept begging to get in we'll stand even. So we had like 180 people in a 150-seat hall, and the LA Fire Department actually showed up and ordered us to stop selling tickets. It was amazing. And the show was so fantastic that after that, it really just took off, and we wound up doing shows like all over Los Angeles. And we did that. Uh, that was March of 2017 when we did that nighttime show, and we came up with the idea of calling it Catholic Laughter, like in the next month or so after. And we were getting good press from the diocesan newspaper, and and it just really just snowballed from there. And eventually, like the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, they had their young adult ministry team up with us, and we put on shows at the Laugh Factory, one of the biggest clubs in the world, called Catholic Comedy Night, several times. And there Ron Pearson, the juggling guy, he's really connected because he works as a headliner in normal club shows a lot. And he brought in like a bunch of other people. Like the most famous one that pops in my head was Sherry Shepherd, this really popular Black woman comic.
Yep.
Has her own national talk show now and was a host on The View at the time. And she showed up even and performed. And so, it just really was a great experience. And that's how it all got started,
Wow. So any of you watching and you've been wondering what to do at your next conference or event, or really you're having a dental conference and you want something funny, just bring it in. We are so serious, especially what happened in 2020 when the world depression rates went up and just so much darkness. This is exactly what you need to bring on to make people laugh. And because it's clean, your boss will approve of it. And so I would like to encourage you to go to catholiclaughter.com. And also, I want to keep promoting Carl's book. You can hold it up again, Carl, but it's Dozed and Confused, Tales from a Nutty Narcoleptic Life. You can get that on Amazon.com. So have you written any other books?
Pardon me?
Have you written any other books, or that's the one you got
I wrote one back in like 2001, but it's almost impossible to find. That one was actually, oh geez. I'll mention this just because it's an example of the strange loops like life can throw you. I got a book with a friend named Tim Joyce, an old friend of mine, and we got a book deal with a big publisher. I mean, like one of the major publishers. And our book was called Life: The Final Frontier. I should have had it with me when I'm sitting, but anyway, it was a spoof of advice books, and we went on a big Chicago radio show and about books, and it exploded. Like within a day, we jumped 972,000 places on Amazon. From like 1 million to 3,000 in the ranks. And so the book host, who was like, maybe he was probably one of the top 5 most influential people in America for promoting books. He was like, I've never seen it jump that big. And he wound up saying, let's send a meeting with the book company. I'm going to tell them, put you out on tour. And I was on that show September 9, 2001. The next day, he tells us he's going to set up for September 10th, and then he set it up for September 11th that next morning, and the whole world changed. And so, the meeting never happened, but we still had the book, but they didn't promote humor for a long time after that. So it kind of just,
no, you're right. Well, this is a perfect time. It's funny because today is that anniversary. Today's 9/11, 2023. So it's time. 22 years later, let's get you out there. Let's get people laughing. We need the laughter.
Thanks.
We absolutely do. So I just want to tell everybody else again, if you want to see Carl perform, come here to Virginia Beach for the Disrupting the Culture with Truth conference on October 28th. It's at the Virginia Beach Convention Center. And we have some fantastic speakers, from Father Robert Altier to Christine Watkins, author of the Warning book, Daniel O'Connor, author of, I'm forgetting the title of his book right now, Kevin Wells. He used to be the beat writer for the Tampa Bay Rays baseball team, and then he got pretty Catholic. So he's like, baseball guys don't really like that as much. So,
Oh,
and Alexis Walkenstein, as you talked about, of course, yours truly will be speaking, and I'm going to be offending whoever I may have forgotten as well. Oh, Doug Barry from U.S. Grace Force. So get your tickets now. We'd love, and if you want a vendor, come vendor table, but it was so well received last year. You can also get a chance to buy a seat. So Carl will gladly for the dinner hour, 9 people can sit at the table with him for that hour, and he can make you laugh, and you can ask him whatever questions you want, and all the speakers have availed themselves for the dinner hour. So we would love to have you there. Carl, any final words you want to say to our viewers?
oh, definitely come out for the conference. I'm really looking forward to it. I think you had a really exciting lineup last year, and I got to see the videos of it because you shared them with me, and I found everything compelling. So I think it'll be fun to bring a different kind of an ending. Inject some good humor into it as well,
Yeah.
along
Yeah.
on top of you educating people on some really important stuff.
Yeah, and if you can't find a priest, Carl will take your confession while he's there.
There
Probably
you
not. Probably not.
go. I
Okay,
joke a lot about confession, but yeah,
and I can't wait to hear that. I mean, you should do it. It's going to be great. I
thanks.
end my shows the same way. Name one thing you'd have our listeners do differently as a result of something we talked about today.
Um, I would say, almost everybody has a sense of humor, that's pretty decent in their own way. Pretty, yeah, I mean, like good, like funny in their own way. And, I would say, give it a shot at trying to write something, humorous, even just as an exercise. And you may find it's something that you really enjoy. And even if it's just something you share with your friends, or, who knows, maybe you take it bigger and you become, or you become the life of the party at parties, or, things like that. So I
Yeah,
think that we all have a sense of humor, and it'd be good to try and
explore it.
encourage that. And also, I would say the old saying about laughter being the best medicine. I highly recommend always, finding, classic comedies to watch, and whenever you're down, especially, and allow that to help you get your spirits up, because it does work.
Yeah. Well, here's a trivia question. There are only 3 things that can produce endorphins naturally, your happy hormones. What are they?
Laughter, I know, is one, but I don't know the others.
Laughter's one. Laughter, aerobic exercise, and sex. And you can get at least one of those at our conference this October. I'll let you decide which one it's going to be.
Wow.
The rest you
Sounds
should.
like a very interesting conference suddenly.
It's good. Let's just plan on laughing a lot. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's so good. I mean, again, that's something God did. God made the human body. As you said, it's true medicine. When you laugh, it produces your endorphins, which is your happy hormone, which helps decrease cortisol, which is your stress hormone. So again, I look forward to having you, because we get a lot of stress hormones that need to be decreased, and your endorphin push is really going to help us all. So again, go to catholiclaughter.com. You can find out more, not just about Carl, but about his associates that he does the humor with. Bring
Yeah.
them to
Oh,
your
and
next show. Go ahead.
I just meant to say one thing I forgot that's so important. Every one of our shows is headlined by the main comic is somebody who's been on national late night television, from Colbert, Letterman, Tonight Show, Conan O'Brien. So it isn't just like, oh, that's clean, and boy, that'll be kind of blasé or whatever. We put on a genuinely, you'll like fall out of your seat funny show always. So yeah,
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, especially if they've been on some of the big name shows like that,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So I'm so grateful. I'm looking forward to meeting you in real life, and giving you one of those great big Catholic bear hugs, and
Oh, thank you.
get our guests
Likewise.
entertained, get them. For those of you, please share this show. Let people know that such a thing exists as good, wholesome Catholic. Do you know who my favorite comic was when I grew up?
No, who?
Richard Pryor.
What?
I know. I
He
know.
is
We used
great, but yeah, not exactly the
pretty
what I'd expect
profane.
from you.
We
Yeah.
used to hide in my boyfriend's house, and we used to all used to sit around and listen to his albums. And I was like, I got an education I shouldn't have gotten. He's like, oh, But yeah, so as I matured, I was like, I think we should stick with the clean humor, the stuff you can tell um
Yeah,
publicly. So
sure.
but if you want to see more of the great guests that God has sent me, go to my website, breakfastwithbacon.com, and you can see this show again. Go to my YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, and you'll see this show and all the other great guests that God has sent me. But we need to get exposure out there, especially these kind of wholesome things, just not enough of them in society. So I think we have to go off the air now. Do you remember how we do it?
Oh
Hopefully.
geez.
You'll
Wait, it's
remember
hard
it
to
in a
send
minute.
this. Okay, yeah.
I am Dr. Christine Bacon. You've
I'm
been
Carl
watching
Koslowski.
Breakfast with Bacon, and I want to remind you always to live your life.
Sunny side up.
Yes,
I got it.
you got it.